ביוגרפיה.
He's a kid from Iowa.
His family was sort of the blue-collar family.
I wouldn't be here without my mom, and I wouldn't be here without the support of my family and my friends.
Who had an early run-in with the law.
And at that point, everything turned for him.
Then got very lucky.
A star is born overnight.
Oh, man.
He found true love with an older woman.
I think a lot of people are shocked that this young, hot star would want to settle down with a woman in her 40s who actually had 3 kids and was the ex-wife of Bruce Willis, who could kill you like that.
But it wouldn't last forever.
I think relationships have, in some ways, become disposable things.
And today, he's one of Hollywood's hardest working stars.
This guy has got his hands in everything. He's producing, he's acting, he's very involved in the brand Ashton Kutcher.
In April of 2012, it was announced that Ashton Kutcher had landed the part of Steve Jobs in an upcoming biopic about the late Apple founder. Reaction to the casting was mixed, as skeptics wondered if the star best known for sitcoms and romantic comedies had the acting chops to pull off the complex role. Yet since he first became an overnight sensation on That 70s Show, there's always been more to Ashton Kutcher than meets the eye. His handsome face got him through the door, but he's dedicated himself to becoming more than just another pretty celebrity. Today, he's a high-powered entrepreneur and a force to be reckoned with in every aspect of media.
This guy has got his hands in everything. He's producing, he's acting, he's very involved in the brand Ashton Kutcher.
He's young, wealthy, good-looking, and a major player in the Hollywood game. Yet through it all, Ashton Kutcher has never forgotten where he came from. Ashton Kutcher is a Midwestern boy from Iowa. He was born Christopher Ashton Kutcher on February 7, 1978. 5 minutes later, his fraternal twin brother Michael arrived. Ashton was healthy, Michael was not. He was diagnosed with mild cerebral palsy. The 2 boys joined their 3-year-old sister as the children of Larry and Diane Kutcher.
His family was the blue-collar family, son of 2 factory workers. Mom was a school teacher at the beginning, but then apparently the school teaching wasn't paying the bills, so she moved on to working at a factory.
I wouldn't be here without my mom, and I wouldn't be here without the support of my family and my friends, and I would never want to do anything to disrespect my mother.
From his father, Ashton learned the value of working hard.
The only thing that he basically said over and over about his father was that he was a workaholic. He said that he even still to this day has to sort of tell his father to slow down a bit sometimes. In whichever factory, job he may have been working at the time, I guess he was often away from home, and he always instilled in Ashton that mentality of you have to work to provide for your family and to provide for yourself.
Though money was tight in the Kutcher family, joking and pranks were plentiful. Even as a kid, Ashton was a master at practical jokes.
I was more like the guy who would try to order something that wasn't on the menu and then start causing a scene with the waitress.
As Ashton approached his teenage years, there was less to joke about. His parents' marriage began falling apart.
From what Ashton told me, he avoided home as much as possible. He sort of stayed out, was into sports, later on was into drama, just kind of stayed away from home a little bit.
Being home also meant confronting his brother's illness.
His brother always had cerebral palsy and basically was always on different medications and so forth, and I think he said that he kind of avoided home because he didn't want to hear any more bad news about his brother, and he didn't want to hear, bickering, I guess, between his parents and so forth.
Then one day when he was 13, Ashton came home from school and Michael wasn't there. He'd gone to the hospital with a serious heart infection.
Ashton, he goes into the room where his brother is laying down, and actually, according to Ashton, sees him flatline.
Doctors managed to revive Michael, but told the family he wouldn't live much longer without a heart transplant. Ashton was desperate to save his brother.
The way he told it to me is that he was thinking about possibly taking his own life because of the situation of his brother needing a heart. They had the same blood type. He figured, that he could save his brother's life, and so he actually at one point apparently goes out to a hospital balcony and is looking down at the ground and is thinking of jumping when his father comes out and says, "Hey, what are you doing? What's on your mind?" And then pretty much at that moment, a doctor comes out on the balcony and says, "A woman just died in Florida, and the heart is on its way."
Ashton's brother survived to live a healthy life. The two remain close to this day.
Ashton is very close with his brother and has said that his brother is his hero and his inspiration.
I think that relationship with his brother, who he says is his role model, has given him a depth of character that he probably would not have had.
The future would not be so bright for Larry and Diane Kutcher's marriage. They divorced, and when Ashton was 15, his mother moved the family to the small town of Homestead, Iowa.
There was sort of like one high school in his town, and everybody knew everybody.
Ashton joined the high school drama club. He fantasized about being as successful as TV actor Kirk Cameron of the sitcom Growing Pains. He was always ready to perform in public, even if it was just a prank.
I was like the guy that in high school I would run around the halls with my underwear on just to see what people would.
I believe that, dude.
Just to be a moron and see how people would react.
He was, however, a very good student and planned to become a geneticist to research heart infections.
He did this because he wanted to help stop the virus that his brother had been suffering from.
Secretly, he really wanted to be an actor. But that seemed so far out of his reality. Small-town kids without money can't run off to California. Just to help pay for college, Kutcher had sold his blood and swept cereal dust at the General Mills factory.
So he never pursued it seriously because it wasn't an option.
So, biochemical engineering it was. He was expecting scholarship offers from MIT and Purdue, and the immediate future seemed set. Then one night near the end of his senior year, Ashton did something crazy.
Ashton and his cousin decided to break into their high school one night and rob the candy machine, which is always a good idea.
They broke into their high school in the middle of the night after what he calls, going to a kegger, and just had a lapse of judgment and thought something would be funny and ended up totally backfiring.
The police were waiting for the two when they came out of the building. Kutcher was convicted of third-degree burglary and sentenced to 180 hours of community service and 3 years of probation.
And at that point, apparently, everything turned for him because he became, sort of shunned from the town of 100 people because they felt like he was stealing from them.
The offers to both MIT and Purdue were ripped away from him. He was kicked off the football team. He was almost kicked out of school. He was not allowed to go to his senior prom.
Ashton did graduate, in the top of his class, and wound up at the University of Iowa. And he still secretly dreamt of acting.
The entire time in high school and in his time in the University of Iowa, he always wanted to be an actor.
It turned out the University of Iowa was just the right place for Ashton to fulfill his acting aspirations. A random encounter at a campus bar started him on the path to Hollywood.
Ashton Kutcher was eating at a local restaurant, and somebody from Hollywood or a modeling agency came in and said, "You're so beautiful, you should try out." And he tried out for a statewide modeling competition.
Ashton wasn't sold on the idea of modeling until he realized it might help him start an acting career. So he entered the competition.
He wound up winning the competition, going to New York.
He won a trip to New York and he became a professional model.
Kutcher didn't want to be confused with all the other models named Chris, so he adopted his middle name and became Ashton Kutcher.
The people back in Homestead, Iowa still refer to him as Chris. And I think they said he'll always be Chris to them.
From the beginning, the good-looking 19-year-old was in demand as a model.
And suddenly he's in Calvin Klein ads, he's in Pizza Hut commercials, he's walking the runway in Paris and Milan. And this was truly the beginning of his career that would set the world to know Ashton Kutcher as we know him.
So, the lesson here, kids, is break into your high school immediately and riches will follow.
For Ashton, they did. He would find the door to fame and fortune wide open on his very first day in Hollywood.
Everything that any kid in America who wants to be an actor would dream of, Ashton Kutcher got it right away.
19-year-old Ashton Kutcher was right when he thought modeling could lead to acting. In 1997, after 8 months striking poses, he was invited to Los Angeles to audition for television pilots.
Basically, the first day that he got to LA, he landed the audition for the pilot, what was the pilot then for that 70s show, and he got it on his very first day in town.
He read for the part of Michael Kelso, the dim-witted but likable friend of the main character.
He didn't even know that it was a comedy. He didn't even know that it was a show about kids in the 70s. All he knew was that it was a show about young kids, and I think he did a scene where he was getting stoned in the basement, which is sort of the classic in that 70s show image. And he just sort of figured that he would act exactly how a kid getting stoned in his basement would act, and which I believe, he had probably had that experience.
The producers offered him the job on the spot.
And this is, A Star is Born, Overnight, everything that any kid in America who wants to be an actor would dream of, Ashton Kutcher got it right away. Number one, here he has a role in the 70s show.
And the only thing that he told me about that audition is that, and that he tells me just in general, is that when he's quote unquote funny, when people are laughing at him, he still to this day doesn't really have the connection of why it's funny. He acts how he thinks it should be acted.
In August of 1998, 20-year-old Ashton Kutcher came one step closer to becoming the next Kirk Cameron by making his television debut as Michael Kelso in That 70s Show.
Yeah.
What happened to your dad's hair? He got a permanent. So that's permanent?
And Ashton's character on the show is Kelso, who's this, not the brightest kid in the world, but was a lot of fun to hang out with.
He's all about getting girls. He's very aware that he's good looking, and he just sort of, he likes to get stoned in the basement and have fun.
I think what was appealing about Kelso is the thing that's appealing about a lot of Ashton's characters, which is that he plays these not that smart guys, but there's just something more to him, and there's sort of a twinkle in his eye. I just think there's just immense likability.
By the end of the first season, that likability turned Kutcher into full-blown teen idol. Long lines of love-crazed girls waited for hours at the studio to get his autograph.
A lot of the producers said that when the show finally grew in popularity and kids were coming to the studio to watch the live tapings or to get autographs signed or whatever, it was like he compared it to Beatlemania and said that Ashton was like the Paul of the group, because the combination of that character being so affable and Ashton being such a good-looking guy made him a huge success.
Well, Ashton Kutcher was just a heartthrob with the tweener set. A lot of girls watched the show just to see Ashton Kutcher because he was so cute. A lot of teenage girls or tweeners had his posters up in their bedrooms.
They didn't feel like he was this creepy guy, he was just sort of this fun-loving doof who just was looking to have a good time and happened to be incredibly handsome.
Oh, man.
Kutcher made the transition to the big screen, playing a role similar to Michael Kelso. The movie Dude, Where's My Car? Chronicles the adventures of two friends who wake up after a night of partying and try to find their car.
Dude, Where's My Car? It's coming out, opens tomorrow, and we just, I'm just keeping my fingers crossed.
He wakes up, he can't find his car, as an entire 2 hours devoted to him finding that car. It was breathtaking, amazing.
Just laugh, man. It's like a giant sketch comedy that goes on for an hour and a half.
Dude, you got a tattoo! So did you do it? No. Oh. Dude, what does my tattoo say? Sweet! What about mine? Dude, what does mine say? Sweet! What about mine? Dude, what does mine say? Sweet!
Dude, Where's My Car was the first inkling that Ashton Kutcher could build on the success of the 70s show.
I think Dude, Where's My Car ended up becoming one of those culty, frat boy favorite, oft-quoted comedies, and I think a lot of it had to do with Ashton. Whether you think it's a good movie or not, he did a great job with it, and it's not easy to pull off that kind of comedy and have it resonate with an audience like that.
Playing someone a little bit on the stupider side, definitely amping up the comedy, he helped give his fan base something more of what they wanted. But unfortunately, this really wasn't something to help move him further into roles where he could be taken more seriously or being a leading man.
22-year-old Ashton was now a Hollywood success story, and he enjoyed all the perks.
Ashton himself has admitted to the fact that he, in his early days of success, that he, relished in the celebrity of being a young, good-looking guy in Hollywood. He partied a lot. He picked up lots of girls. He, spent money. He liked to, go out and have a good time.
Right here, guys.
He was seen at all of the hottest nightclubs in Hollywood with all the most beautiful girls, and he was known somewhat as a playboy. He was definitely living it up in the young Hollywood scene in LA.
He told me that, there are numerous occasions when he's at a bar and a girl will come up to him and be like, hey, what's going on? You want to go back and so forth.
But Ashton was more than just a pretty face and a swinging single. He would soon prove his ability behind the camera.
The fact that he, completely invented this show where he would have celebrities in the palm of his hand just showed what a mastermind he is, and that completely changed everything for him.
In 2002, teen heartthrob Ashton Kutcher brought his charm and good looks to the big screen in his first romantic comedy, Just Married, co-starring Brittany Murphy.
They play a young couple who just married, and their honeymoon goes completely awry.
I went ahead to pull such a NASCAR evasive
I
maneuver.
was busy looking at the map. Somebody had to navigate.
Listen to us.
After filming ended, the two began a real-life romance.
Brittany and Ashton were making the rounds together, promoting the movie, and it seemed that there was a little more than just two co-stars going on.
Yeah, in the movie you immediately get together.
Yeah.
I said,
Right.
what about in real life?
No.
Did that happen?
Yeah.
Not at all.
No. We,
No.
Okay, I don't mean, look at, you're like shocked that I met
No,
you.
I'm not
We were
shocked.
friends for 10
10 months. We
after the film, and then
During and after.
we realized
yeah.
that being friends was really great, but we were gonna see what
Benefits?
else. Yeah, have benefits and stuff.
And it was really Brittany and Ashton everywhere all the time. There were reports of them being at every magazine party, every premiere.
Do you laugh all the time?
Yes.
All the time.
All the time.
Yeah.
We get to smile and laugh all day long, and then our
Yeah.
faces hurt at the end of the day, and then
Yeah.
we go to bed.
Ashton and Brittany were a really great couple, and for a little while it looked like they were actually going to get married. So when they broke up, it was a little bit of a surprise.
Yeah.
Soon after they broke up, Ashton had people saying, "Brittany who?" when he began dating Demi Moore. He first met her at a bar in Los Angeles, where he barely noticed her.
He was out with a mutual friend of theirs who introduced him, and he actually didn't recognize her when he first met her, and it wasn't because he didn't know who she was, it just didn't place right, it didn't make sense to him. So he admitted that he was sort of busy trying to pursue another, girl that night, and so he didn't really pay that much attention to her.
The two really got together several weeks later in New York. They spent the night talking and were together from that moment on.
Demi and Ashton were on the cover of every tabloid every week. You could not turn on any of those entertainment news programs without getting the latest update.
The news that Ashton Kutcher and Demi Moore were dating knocked Ben Affleck, and Jennifer Lopez off the front pages of the tabloids.
He's definitely joked about it, like, oh, we trumped them, we finally got people to stop caring about them and caring about something else. He obviously wasn't happy about it, but he could at least make fun of himself for it.
No one could believe this could be true, that one of the biggest, movie actresses from the 80s, who was married to Bruce Willis, who has 3 kids, there's just no way that could be a serious relationship.
That 25-year-old Ashton had the temerity to date 40-year-old Demi downright scandalized the celebrity press.
I think a lot of people are shocked that this young, hot star would want to settle down with a woman in her 40s who actually had 3 kids and was the ex-wife of Bruce Willis, who could kill you like that.
People thought Demi had lost her mind. They could understand why Ashton wanted to be with Demi. Of course, he wants to be with this beautiful, revered, awesome actress, but no one could understand what Demi was doing with Ashton. Yes, he's good looking, but he just seemed so young.
You thought, well, when Ashton was a kid, he knew Demi Moore and he knew her movies. So for him to grow up and get together with her, it just seemed, like they were from 2 different planets. How would that ever happen?
At the beginning, it just seemed like maybe it was just this weird fling.
She hadn't really been in a high-profile, romance since her divorce from Bruce Willis, so the fact that she was dating anybody new was interesting. The fact that it was another celebrity who was 15 years younger than her just made it that much more of an appealing tabloid, newsy story.
At first, no one believed they actually liked each other. Kutcher must be merely Demi's boy toy, used solely for publicity purposes. Demi was finding her way back into the limelight after a 5-year hiatus.
She was at a point where she had taken a break from Hollywood. She was off in Idaho taking care of her kids, and on her way back to Hollywood, on her way back to parlaying into Hollywood with a role in Charlie's Angels, she meets Ashton. For a publicist, this is a dream come true. Trying to get Demi back out there as she dates a younger guy, it's amazing.
And as for Ashton, well, he too must have an ulterior motive.
Cynical people and in the press or in Hollywood that thought he was just using her fame to try and launch a more serious movie career for himself.
At this point, people didn't really know Ashton. People saw Ashton as this dim-witted, dumb jock, Michael Kelso, on That 70s Show. And they saw Ashton as a guy who was a model, who happened to become an actor. Those kind of people are never taken very seriously.
Ashton's hot. Everybody has a crush on Ashton.
Does Demi Moore know about it?
I don't think she has anything to worry about, believe me.
People thought that this could be a career suicide for Ashton. To really take himself off of every young starlet's hot list or to-do list is a difficult thing.
Yet another layer to this juicy story was Demi's high-profile ex, superstar Bruce Willis.
I think what added to the intrigue of this couple is the fact that from the get-go, Bruce Willis, her ex-husband, was an active part of their life and their relationship. And obviously that's unusual in any case, but again, when the ex is another even more famous actor, it just becomes that much more intriguing of a story.
The biggest question was, how is Bruce Willis gonna handle having this kid date his ex-wife and try to play stepdad to his kids?
An interesting thing is they met originally while Ashton was visiting Demi in Idaho. Ashton got off of her private jet. He sees Bruce. He says, "Hi, how are you?" Bruce at this point did not know that they were dating. Bruce thought that he was there to visit Demi's children, to surprise them. A celebrity from Hollywood that they were a fan of. It was only till later that Bruce realized Ashton wasn't there to see Demi's kids. He was there to see Demi.
The thing that I think also is interesting about Ashton is that, to me, he almost seems like Bruce when he was younger. Bruce Willis on Moonlighting was this brilliant guy with the best comic timing, and here 15, 20 years later comes Ashton Kutcher. There's a lot of similarities.
Ultimately, the big question was answered by Bruce himself.
Everything's okay with me. Ashton's a really great guy. He gets the good housekeeping seal of approval. I think they make a great couple, actually.
As part of a high-profile celebrity couple, Kutcher had to get used to intense media coverage. He quickly learned the value of keeping his private life to himself.
And you could tell there was some definite discomfort from him as far as just not wanting to talk too much about the personal life.
But Ashton didn't let the glare of the tabloids inhibit his professional life. He now added to his credits by stepping behind the scenes as a television producer.
He doesn't think that the acting thing or the celebrity thing is going to last, and he doesn't want to suddenly find himself without a career. And so he feels like if he just puts together as many backup plans as possible, then he'll be in good shape if that ever happens.
He drew on his family's love of practical jokes for his first program, an MTV reality show called Punk'd. It debuted in March of 2003, when Kutcher was only 25.
So Punk'd is a show that sort of took Candid Camera up a couple of notches, where Ashton has put some of his famous friends in some really, really troubling situations and just screwed with them and screwed with their heads for the cameras.
Kutcher hired actors to play out the elaborate pranks he designed for stars like Justin Timberlake. Here, Timberlake doesn't know these federal agents are fake.
Here's a copy of this for you. It's all right. This happens all the time to good people. You understand?
We did the same thing to Jermaine Dupri 2 weeks ago.
We were just at Jermaine Dupri's house. This happened. You're not looking at any kind of a jail time or anything like that. I just want to make sure that you understand what we're taking and what we're trying to get.
I think Ashton at that point, he really spoke to sort of the younger generation. So excited to be punking these people. It's really like, kids living vicariously through him.
The best TV shows come out of your own sort of emotional psyche. And Punk'd just came out of Ashton Kutcher's background. His family played a lot of tricks and games. He played a lot of games on the set. He was a prankster. And that prankster stuff on the set just became an idea for a TV show, which became very successful.
The fact that he, completely invented this show where he would have celebrities in the palm of his hand just showed what a mastermind he is, and that completely changed everything for him. And Hollywood started to just notice him more.
It was an extremely successful show. It was the most successful show on MTV for a while. And if you're the creator and producer of the most successful show on MTV, people are definitely going to take you more seriously.
The fun of the show was watching celebrities in uncomfortable situations. But Ashton insisted it was about more than the prank.
And he claims that the show's not just a Candid Camera kind of show, but he's genuinely interested in the human condition. He really wants to see how people react.
Still, Kutcher somehow got away with tricks like barring Halle Berry from her own premiere and smashing up Wilmer Valderrama's prized car before his eyes.
I guess maybe if there weren't cameras there, they would be taking swings at him, but with the cameras there, maybe they just have to sit back and laugh about it.
And I think even on when he's on Punk'd, where he was threatening people, where he was really messing with people, he was always kind of good-natured about it and give people a big hug. It was like it never came from a bad place.
And definitely a lot of people who were on the show were also friends of his as well.
I think the reason that celebrities didn't get upset with Ashton is because very quickly he became a brand. And so to be on Punk'd, to get punked by Ashton, which is really the only kind of like true punked you can get, you know, became sort of a point of pride.
And even to this day, there are new younger celebrities that you can tell when they're getting punked. They're so freaked out because, you know, and you have that moment where you're, thank God I've been punked and it's not really happening. But you also see the look on their face like, I just got punked. I've made it. So I think that there's something about Punk'd. It just made a mark in the whole television realm, and it's become an iconic television show, really.
Of course, Kutcher's charm hasn't worked on every celebrity.
There are people who don't sign the photo releases. There are some famous episodes circulating around the MTV offices that have never gone to air because people had such freakouts and such meltdowns that they wouldn't sign the releases.
The genius of the show is that even if a celebrity does have a bad reaction to it or isn't into it, they kind of don't really have a choice but to go with it, you know? Ashton has made a point of exposing the people who make a big stink about the fact that they don't like the way that they're portrayed, or they don't, you know, brought out a side of them that they don't want their public to see.
So maybe one day those people will sign the release and we'll get a DVD extra that will blow everybody's minds.
But Ashton wanted more than just the success of Punk'd and That 70s Show. And in 2004, he would try to blow people's minds with his first serious film role.
I read the script and I was like, I want to do this. This is really, really cool.
By his mid-20s, Ashton Kutcher had realized his dream of becoming a successful TV star. Now, he wanted to prove that he was also a dramatic actor.
And I think that he realized, okay, I've got to do something a little different, and he started taking on some movie roles. The Butterfly Effect was one of the things he did, which was completely a departure from the Michael Kelso character.
In the film The Butterfly Effect, Kutcher's character changes the past with disastrous results.
I read the script and I was like, I want to do this. This is really, really cool, and I appreciate the message of people realizing that their actions do count, and that every single moment has value.
Think. You've created a disease that does not exist. Alternate universes with colleges and prisons and paraplegia.
I want my journals, and I want them now. And I know that you got them, and you're gonna give them to me. You're not gonna hide them from me. I want them.
The Butterfly Effect was a huge departure.
Everyone, you know, that he worked with, the producers, the directors, his co-star, all said that he threw himself into it 100% and were really impressed with his work ethic and his dedication.
Ashton was equally serious about his role as executive producer of the film.
I would have loved to have been able to, you know, say cut and then go, you know, screw off and have fun. But once again, I felt really responsible for making this thing, for doing a good job.
The Butterfly Effect took the #1 spot its opening weekend in January of 2004. But in the end, the film didn't help Kutcher establish himself as a dramatic actor.
It was just panned critically, and I don't know if that's necessarily because Ashton didn't do a good job or the movie as a whole just didn't deliver to its audience.
The roles that people like him in are roles like Kelso or roles like Dude, Where's My Car? Take, for example, something like The Butterfly Effect, which actually did well in its first week at the box office, but then it trailed off.
It's really difficult to be a young comedic actor and try to parlay into being a leading man and to be taken seriously. This is something that's been really difficult for Ashton.
In 2005, 27-year-old Kutcher decided it was time to leave Michael Kelso and That 70s Show behind to concentrate on his producing and film careers. His relationship with Demi Moore remained a constant. They had been together for 2 years, and in answering a question about a movie role, he touched on what he'd found in Demi.
What makes somebody the one?
For me, I believe that it's the person that compliments you. It's the person that believes in you when you don't believe in yourself. It's the person that supports you no matter what you're going through. And it's the person that you want to do that for.
Ashton and Moore now live together, along with her 3 daughters. They were often seen out and about with Moore's ex, Bruce Willis.
their 3 daughters call him Maud, my other dad, you know, that they've seemed to have embraced him, you know.
I myself saw him out in the ocean, you know, swimming around with the girls. He's fun. They seem to love him. He has a good relationship with their father.
It was like this whole big happy family, and you thought, well, how could this all really work? Everything about it that seemed that it would go awry actually worked perfectly, and everybody was just kind of wondering, how the heck is this happening?
In fact, it was his stepdaughter's idea for Ashton and Demi to have some fun with their age difference when he hosted Saturday Night Live in 2005.
She is the best thing that has ever happened to me. And she's here tonight. Demi, I love you, baby.
You're doing great, baby.
Thanks.
Even after 2 years together, their relationship still sparked interest and gossip.
People magazine says that you have bought.
Is that like your source?
Yes, this is my source.
People magazine's your source,
Yes,
and you're
no.
gonna run with that one.
Yes, no.
I put it back in your bathroom next to the toilet.
And that you're gonna have a baby.
Put that one back in the bathroom next to your toilet.
At the time that I interviewed him, the big rumor in the papers was had he proposed because she had been spotted with this new ring, and you know he said, "Just come on. If that was an engagement ring, I would receive hell from everybody back home because it was like he referred to it as a little piece of coral on a little piece of gold, you know. But come on now, let's get serious."
Then, in September of 2005, they quietly made it official. These tabloid favorites managed to get married in a very private ceremony, away from the prying eyes of paparazzi.
I think the reason they were able to do this is because they didn't alert the press. You know, whenever we know what's going on, whenever we see somebody is getting married, it's because somebody's tipped them off.
When they got married, I think people were a little surprised because I think everybody was sort of expecting them to break up. So when they got married, people thought, wow, so it's not just a publicity stunt? That's not just some weird thing that's going on temporarily?
I think a lot of people thought it was going to be this weird celebrity marriage that lasted 6 months, and then they'd both wake up and go, what? But they seem to really be a genuine couple, and I think that's sort of surprised a lot of people.
They seem to be in a pretty, mellow, stable, serious relationship, and seems pretty dedicated to her kids, and it doesn't seem like it's obviously a fling that's going to end anytime soon.
With his personal life settled, Kutcher now focused on surprising people with his professional choices. In the next year, he would take on a role that really had him stepping outside his comfort zone.
You know, it's exciting. It was a little uncomfortable for me at times, but I think that that's a good thing.
In 2006, Ashton Kutcher finally landed a role he'd worked for 3 years to get. He convinced Kevin Costner to sign him on as co-star of The Guardian, a film about Coast Guard rescue swimmers.
I did about 8 months of training before the movie because
Let's hear
not
it.
really a swimmer. So, I was raised in Iowa, so there's not a whole lot of oceanfront property in Iowa. So I could get from like one side of the pool to the other. If I fell out of boat, I could probably get back in it, but I had to actually learn how to pull bodies through the water.
All right, listen up. We stay together as a group. Okay. Nobody falls behind. We all stay together. One guy goes back, get it back up to the front. Okay, we're a team. Hoorah! Hoorah! Hoorah!
The director, Kevin Costner, his other colleagues on the film all said that he threw himself into it 100% and was totally dedicated. I mean, physically even, it was a pretty rigorous role to prepare for.
The Guardian was Kutcher's first big-budget action movie, with a big lead co-star.
It's a bigger responsibility. This is it's a big movie, so it's exciting. It was a little uncomfortable for me at times, but I think that that's a good thing. You know, whenever you're uncomfortable, you're stepping outside your comfort zone, you're growing, and that's what I was trying to do.
As with The Butterfly Effect, reviews were once again mixed.
How much of that is his actual performance in those serious roles, and how much of that is people not buying that character because they just see Kelso. They see the guy that's in Punk, they see the crazy Ashton that most of us are familiar with. We don't know.
The biggest challenge for Ashton Kutcher in getting rid of that dim-witted Kelso character is the public. He's got his hands in everything, so at least the Hollywood community knows that there's more to him than Kelso. It's more convincing the public that he's not just this, dude.
While he's waiting for his big screen star to ascend a bit more, Kutcher is proving himself the master of reality television with his own production company, Catalyst.
In Hollywood, every actor starts a production company. It's like, it's nothing new, nothing original, but obviously Ashton stands apart a little bit because he's successfully produced television shows.
As Ashton Kutcher has sort of grown up, you can see that his interests are very wide. They don't just have to do with starring in a movie.
He just said he wanted to do as many different things as possible, which I think may go back to his father in some way.
I think he's taken very seriously as a producer in Hollywood. I have heard, people have talked to me about meetings he's been in. Very smart guy, taken very seriously, and he makes his own presentation. He does it, he knows what he's talking about. He's a detail man as well as a concept man.
He continued working on projects for MTV and created a hit for the CW network with the reality show Beauty and the Geek. As the name suggests, the program brought together hot girls and nerdy guys.
You have Beauty and the Geek, and that sounds like a really mean experience for this poor young guy. But you know what? It's actually lighthearted and fun, and he's found a way to find the humanity in these things that could be pretty brash and mean, but they're not.
With Beauty and the Geek, I think that he was projecting his own self because as gorgeous as he is, I think part of what's really likable about Ashton is he kind of doesn't realize it, or he knows it on whatever level because he knows he's this hot Hollywood guy, but I think he still thinks of himself as a geek, and he is like, how the heck am I married to Demi Moore?
In his television projects, Kutcher has shown an uncanny understanding of what a young audience will watch.
Ashton has his finger on the pulse of what people are going to be interested in. He knows what the next trend is going to be, or if he works with a trend that's already there, he's able to reinvent it and make it a little more interesting and definitely funny.
He has a great sense of what the 20-something guys want because he is a 20-something guy, and I think he goes by his instincts, and he's not trying to imagine what people would like. I think he's producing stuff that he likes. And being that he's kind of a regular guy, that connects to a lot of regular guys out there.
When I interviewed him before I could even talk to him, he was finishing up a meeting. You could certainly see that there's, a business mind there behind, just wanting to be a star.
Kutcher also tried putting his stamp on television comedies, producing and even making a guest appearance on the ABC sitcom Misguided. Exploring new entrepreneurial opportunities, the business-minded actor also briefly served as creative director of upstart telecommunications company, Ooma, and signed a deal to provide internet content for AOL.
We've found partnerships in building solutions through technology.
Probably the smartest thing Ashton Kutcher has done is get involved with AOL in producing internet, because that is the way of the future.
There were plenty of opportunities to see Ashton in 2008. He appeared in a series of commercials for Nikon cameras and charmed audiences in one of the biggest box office hits of his career, the comedy What Happens in Vegas, co-starring Cameron Diaz.
One of the most wonderful things about working with him is how much trust he holds, that you can hold in him. He is unbelievably trustworthy. Every day you know exactly what you're getting into.
The 31-year-old continued to stretch himself creatively in 2009 with the emotionally charged drama Personal Effects and the sexy adult comedy Spread. Continuing to develop his career behind the scenes, Ashton also served as executive producer of the CW series The Beautiful Life. It became clear just how influential the social media-inclined star had become when he won a $100,000 charitable wager with cable network CNN to see who could reach 1 million Twitter followers first.
So I'm gonna send out a tweet really quick right now. And if you want to retweet it, you can retweet it.
His career and personal life were flourishing. But in December of 2009, Ashton was blindsided by shocking news that his former girlfriend, Brittany Murphy, had passed away at age 32. Ashton remained busy in 2010 playing a former super assassin in Killers and joining a star-studded cast for the film Valentine's Day. In 2011, he played Natalie Portman's friend with benefits in the comedy No Strings Attached. On the business front, though 2 Atlanta restaurants he'd invested in closed down, he then made a profit of over $1 million when he sold his home above Sunset Strip. Always on the forefront of social media, he also launched a Twitter app and successfully invested in Skype, which was later bought by Microsoft. Another huge payday was about to come his way when he replaced controversial star Charlie Sheen in the highly rated CBS sitcom 2.5 Men.
The cast really loves Ashton, or is coming to love him, or coming to know him.
He was now one of the highest paid actors on television, earning a reported $700,000 per episode. While his career was in high gear, Ashton's life away from the set wasn't going as smoothly. The Village Voice ran an article challenging the statistics used in his Real Men campaign to help put an end to underage prostitution.
I stumbled across an issue 3 years ago, and I chose to educate myself on it. And it was the issue of human trafficking and child sexual exploitation.
Yet the most difficult time for Ashton came in November of 2011, when he and Demi decided to divorce after 6 years of marriage.
I think relationships have, in some ways, become disposable things. As soon as these relationships become inconvenient for us, they become disposable.
Despite recent setbacks, Ashton closed out the year on a positive note, though, sharing the screen with Lea Michele in the holiday hit New Year's Eve.
Just being locked in an elevator with Ashton Kutcher for 2 weeks was not too shabby for my first movie.
In 2012, Kutcher enjoyed the fruits of his labor, purchasing a Hollywood Hills home which was listed at $10.8 million and reserving a spot as an astronaut tourist on Virgin Galactic's first ever space voyage. Focusing on more terrestrial endeavors, he also invested in an Iowa-based startup company, Dwala, and agreed to play Steve Jobs in an upcoming film about the late Apple founder. Returning to more familiar territory, Kutcher reunited with castmates of That 70s Show for the Fox 25th anniversary special, and got back to his pranking ways when Punk'd returned to MTV. Since he first became an overnight sensation, Ashton Kutcher has become a star, an entrepreneur, continually exceeded everyone's expectations, and he still has years to fulfill even bigger dreams.
I think Ashton can definitely become successful in serious movies. I just think it's about a little more experience. You know what, he got the success so fast that, you know what, sometimes you have to step back as an actor and learn a few new things.
If he plays his cards right, and if the audience that has been so loyal to him starts to be willing to look at him in a different way, I wouldn't be surprised if he ended up becoming a little bit more of a leading man, a romantic comedy leading man, a dramatic leading man. Those are all things that seem completely feasible. I mean, he's definitely got a certain charm and a certain appeal that doesn't seem like it's going to go away anytime soon.
He's barely 30, and look at all he's achieved. I mean, people like Kevin Costner have gone on record saying that they anticipate a really long career from this guy. This isn't just like a one-laugh dude.